right, welcome to an edition of a Monday Night Stampscapes live. Monday midnight stamping. That alliteration itself should warrant a weekly Monday night series, I think. Okay, so photo stamping, mirror card, fall scene. All right. So this is a photo stamping, for anyone that doesn't know, is just stamping on top of a photograph. It doesn't have to be a photograph of a sky, but traditionally that's what a lot of people have been stamping on in terms of landscape stamps because, you know, skies make a perfect background for the things that we're doing. And photo paper is a really easy thing to stamp on top of just with your regular dye-based inks, okay? I have the StazOn right here in case I want to use it on the mirrored portion down below, but on top we can use any type of inks, including just your regular dye-based inks. I'm not going to be really using the dye-based inks for the visible portion, but I want to use it as a foundation for the colors that I'm going to apply on top of it. So, oh, these aspen trees, we'll go with, you know, our oranges and greens on there, maybe some turning colors to utilize for our color scheme. It's always kind of hard to know what color to use on our foundation here because it's going to be covered up by and large, so we don't have to get too involved with the actual colors as our base coat. Hello, Kay and Linda. Good evening to you both. I feel like that's what I should be saying as in costume for Halloween here. Good evening. How are you both? I hope you're well. I've been wanting to. There's so many things I want to do. After I did that alien abduction one, I thought I want to do another more alien abductions in different types of settings. You know, kind of that. Oh, I think about, like, you know, in the 70s there was all this talk about, you know, the Bermuda Triangle and all these kind of weird types of things, you know, around the world. So I thought, you know, we can go in the tropics and something in the tropics is getting transported, and I don't know, just stuff from around the globe. You know, we can have something being transported in the Arctic or something like that. Hello, Tina. Good morning to you. Okay, so let me just get moving here. Okay, let me see. I was going to stamp something else out here as a foundation right here. So just a real simple composition right here. I want to test out these paint pens here on top of the photograph. I don't know. I don't remember utilizing kind of the thicker paint pen types of applications like I often do on things like vellum. I don't know, for some reason I use these on vellum a lot, you know, because I could white out my like birch tree trunks from the backside of the vellum and things like that. But I thought we would do it on here, and I really like the look of 3mm acrylic paint pens on trees for that fall foliage. So why not try it on a photo stamping piece? I don't know. Well, so here's the things, you know, if I stamp this over the top of, you know, an area like, you know, the blue area, you know, are these pens going to be opaque enough to kind of block out that background color? These tend to be a little more translucent, where they really should be nice and opaque if they're acrylic, but they're not. So I don't know. Let's just give this a shot here and see what we can come out with. We'll know more coming out of it than we did going into it. Okay, I didn't even get set here. I can't even find my black stamp pad. It's around here somewhere. It's really time to tidy up my desk area, I think. I just mentioned to someone, when you're really looking around for everything, that's the time to tidy it up, you know, for sure. Okay, here we go, I found it. All right. Okay, so Boulders with Lichen down here. Just use any type of foundation like that. That'll provide a pretty good transition into our bottom area like that. That looks really cool like that as is, doesn't it? You know, it's real kind of surreal. I mean, if someone just stamped out anything like this, a little figure kind of walking into the distance or something like that, that would be kind of cool on something like that. I was mentioning to someone if they ever download these photographs, and there's all kinds of things. I mean, you don't have to download mine, but mine are all, you know, they're all up there and free. But I just said, hey, if you have some kind of editing software at all, I mean, you can change the colors and contrast and saturation of any of these prints of mine, and you know, do them accordingly. You can even change like certain colors. You can, you know, select a certain color and change it to, you know, another color entirely. Yeah, you can make things look more surreal or whatever. Inherently, on a lot of my photographs that I have for photo stamping, though, I have cut down the contrast, so the blues are often darker blues out there. But if we want them to be kind of more universally applicable to photo stamping, a lot of times I cut the contrast. I kept the contrast in on some of them, though. You know, just have some variation. But a lot of times, like, see, if I stamp this across this way like that, you know, I'd have a lot of those blues and whites running right through this rock right here. So a lot of the, you know, the photographs, you know, there's not too much, you know, like a heavy contrasting area. Like this one is a prime example like that. So we can get the textures of, you know, sky or something like that without too much contrast. And it has a little bit of contrast right there. But here's one where I dropped out the color altogether just so that you can, you know, you can do warm tone colors over the top of it if you want to. You can add yellows or whatever, you know, because the gray's more of a neutral there. So, yeah, Marvy inks dry on the photo paper is just fine. It's not just Marvy, it's just any kind of dye-based ink, because water-based inks are typically what's in your printers, I think. It's not like some kind of solvent or oil-based ink. I'm pretty sure inkjet inks are water-based. So it's just any kind of water-based ink. I wasn't even aware of that either until the recent vinyl papers that I've been working on. On the, you know, the packaging, it says like, some of them say inkjet printer, but some of them say dye-based printer inks. And I think what they mean by that is, are the inkjet printer inks. So, yeah, I think they put that on there so people don't use like a black and white toner type of transfer for those types of papers. So, and on the vinyls and you know, any type of inkjet based print, I gotta think they're all the same kind of emulsion, but I do find that these papers are a little bit different than the vinyl ones. Okay, so, but there's something in common with all of them, I think. Hello, Sandy. Yeah, but it's really convenient. People have been doing photo stamping for, you know, since the like the mid 90s or something like that, you know, when we were using, you know, basically just dye-based inks. So the only inks that don't work on the photo paper in terms of drying are your traditional types of pigment inks that I've found. I've used like a Claire on this type of photo print, and it never dried for me. But that being said, the Claire dried on the printable vinyl, you know, but this is more like your, you know, your Epson, Canon, Kodak, Costco, whatever types of photo paper right here, okay? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is with the vinyls. They're just, I don't know. The vinyls are just more universal or something like that. Okay, so coloring. Okay, this pen's like completely dry. Let's get a good foundation going with this color. And again, I'm going to be using a lot of different colors over the top of these trees. So that are not Marvy. Okay, it's going to be the majority pen works. So this is just kind of a foundation base for those other colors to come. I'm going to go a little bit darker with it though than lighter because these are semi-opaque markers right here that I'm going to hope they obscure the background base color a decent amount. Okay, a lot of my pens are kind of dry, so, but that's kind of good because that first green was a little bit too green. And like the trunks here are going to be white too, so I'll be doing a lot of coloring in here. All right, so again, hope you're all well. It is midnight for myself and all of us out here on Pacific Standard Time. It's Monday Midnight Madness here. Well, it's 12:18 now, but I started this one at midnight. I was thinking, yeah, Monday Midnight Madness. That should be the name of an ongoing time slot for some stamping. And if you're all up, you can flip on the channel and then stamp out something yourself. Okay, so this one, I don't know what this is going to look like over the top of the blue, like I said, but this is just your foundation print here, okay? So we're not too concerned about kind of the overall impression quality, impression opacity, I guess would be more specific. Okay. Now, if I really wanted this to stand out, I would stamp it out on one of those other pieces that was more white-based in the background, or less contrast-based, okay? But the contrast of that white against that blue for mirror cards really is, it's important. I mean, you don't have to have it in, but it's just a lot more effective having some contrast in that upper picture area because it just reflects so much easier down below. Okay. Actually, that printed out a lot better than I thought it would. I mean, that's a little bit darker. Clearly you can see where that blue goes back in there, but I don't know, that green over the top of that doesn't look too bad. So that's the tree right there. I'll do a little bit of a lower tree down here because I can see this really covers up a lot of that visible area. So we'll go with a smaller portion of this tree back in this area right here. That almost looks like kind of an interesting composition right there, just as is, and just leaving this part open. I usually don't do that because this is so right-handed heavy right here, but I don't know. I'll need to do something again one of these days like that. That would be like an example of, like if I put like a little deer or something like that, they call that, it's not a widely known concept or something like that, but it was one of the lessons we learned in my beginning drawing class in college. We had this one exercise where we were doing this still life, and he made it really balanced, and he called it dramatic balance. It's where everything is super balanced from one side of your composition to the next. And then we contrasted it with doing something that was called, he referred to as dramatic imbalance. Okay, so you put like something really small over here. You know what I mean? It's for the purpose of, kind of comparing and contrasting two different compositional styles, just for effect. which was a really good lesson overall. I don't know what I thought about that class, but it was taught by the head of the drawing and painting department at Long Beach State. He was one of those real kind of, if you're in the drawing and painting department, you got to be real artsy fartsy. I was mentioning it the other day, it's like, I don't know, it's like if you're in that department, I don't know, it's like you do whatever you do and whatever you come up with, even if it was like unintentional or whatever, and you come up with the reason why you did it afterwards, which was kind of obvious to me. It's like, you weren't thinking about that when you did that. You're making up, kind of the purpose of it, like afterwards, after the fact, which I don't know, that kind of portion of things kind of drove me up the wall. I wasn't a drawing and painting major, though. I was an illustration major. So we were slightly more, I don't know, less, concept art. Okay, so let's see. Let's go down here. So going really low. I might not have left enough of that rock showing here, but we'll see. I mean, I'm going to be filling in with, it's like I said, it's going to be a lot of paint pen. Maybe I don't have to use so much paint pen. That came out pretty good up there. I have that little hole right there, though, but... Okay, it looks pretty good. Okay. I don't know. I'm always surprised at... Okay, so who asked that? Was that Kay or who said that with the Marvy up top there? But, okay, Kay mentioned, I didn't know Marvy dries on photo paper. The thing that surprises me, Kay, too, about just your regular dye-based inks, I mean, you can use, your memento pads, or, I just did this to get, that watercolory type of varied look within the impression there, so it doesn't look just mono value or monotone, whatever. But I'm always surprised at just the quality of the impression too. I mean, that's a really solid impression right there, I mean, it is glossy, paper that we are stamping on, so it's super smooth, but I guess it's the emulsion that's in that surface there. Those types of surfaces are meant to grab ink, so, the one thing that this isn't good for is, like I say, if we're just doing this on a white piece of paper, okay, and we need to blend in a bunch of tones, this paper isn't good for that because it's just grabbing those inks really fast and it's just drying instantly. But in terms of just impression quality, this type of paper is really fantastic to stamp on. So if someone was doing something like, if you weren't blending in tones, like sponging colors in or something like that, or if you're just stippling colors in with like stipple brushes or something like that, where you're tapping it in there to get a little bit of extra tone. I'm talking about it on a blank piece, not a printed piece, like with clouds in the background. But this would be a really fantastic paper to use. I like using alcohol inks on here a lot of times too, which maybe we'll do here. But... that and let's see, what else was I going to say works really good on here. Okay, so let's say if we had, I don't know if any of you have like Copic markers, and if you have that like airbrush set where you attach that, these aren't Copics, but you attach that little attachment in there and use it kind of in a compressor setting and go, you're using this and spraying out, color on there, that would be a really fantastic applicator or process to use with photo paper, okay? And you can use it with the same exact thing. You can stamp out your objects in dye-based ink, and you go in and you spray in your colors in I don't know, whatever, a rainbow background or something like that, whatever. you know, if you're doing something like that, you know, you'd probably want to stamp, but, you know, you'd be doing that over like silhouette objects, not green, you know, and getting a sunset background because you'd get it all over the front of this. But something like that would work really well in terms of compatibility, media compatibility and media effectiveness. There we go, like that. Look at that. Doesn't that look fantastic? That's like a, I don't know, you can just leave it like that too if you want to. You know, it needs a little bit of foreground in here or something like that. But I don't know. I don't know. That really takes me back to the Sierras, or probably like Colorado, anywhere you'd get some aspens in there. But pretty quick, effective card. But I don't know. We don't want to just leave it at that, though. Let's go in and add a little bit of a tone to it. I'm trying to think of what I want to use. Let's go ahead and use the alcohol inks in here. Speaking of that. Okay, now the alcohol ink shouldn't smear my colors on my rocks unless the ink is still wet. I doubt if it would be. Okay, so I'm going to make it look real granite. I really like the look of that rock down there. But it needs a little bit of volume, kind of creation, volumes meaning, you know, rounded tones and, you know, where it looks a little bit more solid. We have the textures inherently in the rock itself, but, you know, just adding in some extra shadows or something like that would be really good. Okay, let's start off with some, so these are my colors that I'm going to use, okay? Some gray tones, a little bit of green. Maybe that's a little bit too much. I'm saying things kind of fairly definitively, but, you know, because I generally know how this is probably going to come out, but in my mind, too, I'm still, you know, this is kind of experimenting around with it as well, so I don't know for sure, okay? 2:30 a.m. there, Sandy. You're up late. Or early. Oh, yeah. Sometimes people, a lot of times people, because I'm using the same software where you get picture in picture, so sometimes a lot on the replays, someone will write in the comment section something like, "Hello, Kevin," you know, and I write back, "Hello," you know, but it's in the it's in the, you know, the video comments section. It's not in the like the live, you know, commenting section. But yeah, they don't know when it's live. All right, so I'm going to see, I'm just kind of painting some of this down here. I'm going into those darker areas, okay? And my ink has been sitting around long enough. Talking about the black Marvy ink that was used down here. Okay, just black dye-based ink. Don't get caught up in the Marvy aspect of it. But the Marvy is a pretty good one on here because Marvy inks are a lot thinner than just about any other dye-based ink that I can think of. So when an ink, the viscosity is thinner, it's just going to penetrate whatever surface you're utilizing it on faster, right? Because it's, you know, it's not as thick. That being said, if you want to blend certain colors around, maybe Marvies aren't the one to use as your base coat at least, okay? But they're really come in handy if you want to add in some more tones and you need it to penetrate multiple layers of inks that you've already laid down. That's not going to be the case with this scene right here that I'm working on because I'm not going to get too thick with it because I'm going to build up other types of media, you know, the pens here on instead on there, but I don't know, it's you know, I'm not being as politically correct, well, not politically correct, but I don't know, whatever the word would be when I can't think of the word, it's just too late right now, but I used to just say, hey, you know, use whatever you have, but there are certain things about Marvy inks that you just can't get around. if you want to increase your intensity level of certain types of colors, it's good to throw in like 1 or 2 Marvy inks. And you don't need a lot of Marvy inks. And they don't come in the pad form anymore. So, but even if you had your primary colors, a yellow Marvy, a blue, black, maybe a brown, maybe, I don't know, maybe beyond the 3 primaries, but like a pink. But you can mix those in with any other brand of inks, okay, if you're layering your inks together, and it'll brighten up any other line of inks because dye-based inks are transparent, and whatever layering you have, ow, excuse me here, I went too close. That's driving me nuts. I gotta troubleshoot that again sometime. But yeah, just anytime you're using transparent media, if you mix in something that's a lot brighter, you can increase the intensity of all of your pads. Okay, so you don't have to have a gazillion in color, different colors. Just throw one brighter one into the mix of whatever color scheme you're working in, and you're set. All right, so this is just, I don't know, don't those rocks look a little bit more kind of realistic now? See, I'm keeping, some of the lightness of them. I'm hitting the shadows with additional, darker tones. And it might be just, real light gray. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. See, these are kind of like pastel colors that I'm using. This one's a little bit more of an olive brown, brownish gray, something like that. Okay. I don't know, you can put in some other colors in there to make it look like lichen or something like that. Okay, but this is what this does right here. It just gives it a little bit more volume, mass. It makes sense that, these trees here would be casting a little bit of a shadow, so you're just making the rocks underneath those trees a little bit darker, but where it really looks great is when you throw it down here too, because you get double your money. It's like these rocks down here are also now colored in. I mean, they're not, it's the same rocks like that. But here this just looks darker like that. But then when I put it here, the light is reflecting off this onto there. So let's go a little bit darker. So always get your bearings, take a look and see what your pieces look like in context. So this one is going to be placed on a super reflective area. Like if this was really nature right here, it's like, light is reflecting off of the water, right? So it's kind of working like it would in nature here. I used to go surfing all the time and used to get so like sunburnt on my face because you have light reflecting off of the water in addition to coming from above. So, you get like a dual kind of exposure. Okay, let me see. I was seeing if I had a darker grid out. This one's really dark right here, this black right here. I don't want that black right there, okay? So you just apply it down here. This is what I like about this paper too. Not only the fact that you can use the dye-based inks for the impressions, but the alcohol inks blend beautifully on the top of this, because when I apply this black on here like this, it's sitting right on the surface of that emulsion and not just soaking into the paper. So I can, you can take your blender pen. I'm just taking my darker gray though and blending that out. See, I got that darker version. So I just put a couple little, splotches or whatever of black. I just laid some of that down like that. Okay. And then you take your, whatever your blender pen. If you're going to do something though, I wouldn't take the blender pen. I would just take a lighter version of those objects that you've applied whatever darker color to, darker value of a given color, and just use a lighter version of it to blend it in. Okay, because it's a lot more, it's a lot closer to that color that you're blending in, rather than just going with a pure blender pen, which is clear, right? Why not use a color related to that color to blend in. Now, sometimes I do, you know, if it's really light, if it's a really light tone, you know, and the lighter one would be the blender pen, that's when I use the blender. So see something like that, and see some of these rocks up here. Maybe I went a little bit too dark right there. So I'll just take my light gray and watch this right here. I'll just go right here. See how that remove that tone? I don't know if you can tell. See what color that is right there? That rock? Watch how great photo paper is with alcohol inks, okay? Well, like I said, see this one right here? That's really dark, so I can just go like this. And that lightened that area up. It's like, I don't know, it's like super forgiving because you can just move it around on there. I don't know if that's like that Yupo paper or something like that. I've never even used it, but I'm under the impression that that's kind of like it. But look how realistic that rock can look now. Like, especially like right in there by giving it all that texture with the application and then removal of it. Because when you're removing that ink too, when you're going back into it like that, it's that alcohol ink type of thing where it's like spreading it out a little bit. And then you're getting that extra texture in there. So I think that looks, I don't know, to me that looks like a real rock. Not really, but you know, more than before at least, okay? All right, now if I just don't screw it up with the acrylic paint pens. Okay. Okay, I probably, you know, if you get a notification, I don't know, I think the notifications go out immediately, but if you saw something like, even at like at 2 a.m. someday, you know, it's probably me going, you know what I mean, going on there. I briefly thought about going on like at 4 a.m., I don't know when it was. I didn't do that because I really needed a little bit more sleep. But I was tempted to, because another time someone in the UK was saying, hey, I just asked him, I said, well, what would be the ideal time to go on? And she said, well, like 12 p.m. Her time, which is 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I thought, well, I could do that, you know, because I'm often up at 4. I try not to be, but I am a lot. I just said, well, if I am on at 4, I just wouldn't be on as long. You know, I'd probably, you know, try to do like a 40-minute scene or something like, I don't know, whatever it is. Okay, so acrylic paint pens in these different colors right here. I mean, when I'm working in transparent colors, I go with light colors and I work darker. Okay, so with the alcohol pens, I went with lighter tones and I built it up to the darker tone. And then I went back in with a lighter tone to kind of blend it, but I really wasn't coloring with the lighter tone. It was more like highlighting just to remove some inks. Okay, so the dye-based inks are transparent, alcohol inks are transparent. These pens right here, they're supposed to be a little bit more opaque. So I like to have darker foundations and lighter ones on top of it to make it look more, you know, it brings out the imagery out in a more kind of three-dimensional way. Although, you know, I say that, but these aren't super opaque. Although that looks really opaque there. It might end up being more opaque looking than I don't know, glossy cardstock, you know, or the vellum that I've been using it on. Okay, so here's my thing. When I add these little dots down like this, these little highlights like this on other papers, what it looks like when it's wet is a lot different than what it looks like when it dries. When it dries, they get really translucent, much like pigment inks that I apply over something dark. When they dry, they just get a lot darker typically, because I'm usually using them on surfaces that are darker than them. I'm usually, you know what I mean? I'm not usually not applying pigment inks over dark pigment inks over a light area. It's usually light pigment inks over a darker area. Which is the case that I'm usually doing with these pens right here. Okay, so let me go for, that's really, okay, now I think it's, I can see it, yeah, it's happening. They're getting a little bit darker as it dries here. I'll still be a little bit conservative because I still really don't know what could possibly be happening with a pen like this too. Is it's water-based pen because acrylics are water-based, and it could be physically mixing with that emulsion surface that's down there, or whatever thing, you know, chemical kind of process it goes through. And it could be drying the media faster than what they would be on just a piece of white cardstock, okay? So if some sort of medium isn't in solution as long, maybe it, you know, it'll stay more true to what it looks like when it's been freshly applied, which is wet. I don't know. That's why I wanted to do this one. I wanted to see what this would look like here. I don't know. I think normally, it's, or usually I should say, I think it's staying lighter than what I'm kind of used to, so. If that's the case, I might have to, you know, when I do this type of touch onto these types of trees, I don't know, maybe I might have to do it on photo paper more often. Because one thing I don't like is sometimes when I do this, I really like the look of it, but sometimes I think I really had to overwork these little dots that, you know, are supposed to be like shimmering little leaves. I really like, I am going for shimmery types of leaves, but sometimes it's like I lay down so many different layers of it, and it just seems to get really busy. And that's where I use the pigment ink over it to kind of mellow it out a lot more. But if I don't have to do that, all the better. Okay, Kay can't seem to find Marvy refills here. The site is always out. What site are you looking on, Kay? Because it should be on the Uchida website. You know, if you just order it direct from Uchida, like Marvy USA, or Uchida USA, I should say. Because that's where, you know, all the stores and all the other people get it from, is direct from them. So here's the thing: if they're ever now, if their website is out of it, then we're in trouble, because that means that they're probably out of it for good. Because I don't think Marvy refills will ever be in production again, just because the Marvy ink pads aren't in production anymore. So they certainly aren't going to be placing an order with Marvy Japan for ink refills. All right. Okay, adding this in like so. So I'm going a little bit more sparse with my lighter tones like that. See that right there? Okay. So I'm kind of grouping this a little bit more. I'm trying to go for this just overall uniform tone, you know. So when I'm doing this, it looks, I don't know if you can see this right here, but see, I'm kind of like clustering my applications like that. So, you know, it looks like that's where the light is kind of hitting it a little bit more, so like that. You know what I mean? I don't want this just an overall completely even lighting scheme when it comes to trees, you know, because trees have, you know, shadows and light within, I don't know, whatever you'd call it, the structure, you know, the branch and leaf structure. All right, so that is that. I'll show you what this looks like down in the reflection. I need to take a look at it myself here too. We have isolated types of textures going in here. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to add, when I'm done, when I'm doing kind of little finishing touches, I'm putting some of these little green and yellow dots. I should leave this out here. I put some of those yellow dots on the rocks, because if it's fall, chances are that you'd have some of those leaves falling. And then I'm going to put some on my water surface down here, like little, floating little, colored leaves down there, like that. So, okay, so this is a little bit of a duller yellow, so a couple different intensities of yellow here. The hue, the values, looks like this one, the value is a little bit darker, but it's duller than this one right here. This one has a little bit more orange in it too, looks like. All right, Tina, have a great day today. You're not the only crazy person up, Karen. The first time I did one of these Stampscapes lives at night, I don't know, it was like another midnight type of thing, and I was saying it's like the Stampscapes pajama party, or just stamping pajama party. I don't know if anyone's ever been to a like a stamping retreat or something like that, or a scrapbooking retreat. But you get people kind of working at all hours, of the night in the, the workroom or, whatnot. There's usually a workroom where people set up all their stuff and they just stamp all night. And when I've been to those types of things, too, I was never the one to kind of shut down, so to speak, the stamping room. There were people up at those events like a lot later than I was. Although that being said, I think when it was, they were always on Central Standard. It was always in Illinois. Not all of them. I went to stamping retreats here in California too, but like sometimes I'd be a little bit jet lagged though. Now I think about it. Otherwise, I'd be able to hang with them, Not to make excuses for wimping out, All right. Isn't that, that it doesn't look terribly realistic, but there is a certain, degree of realism to this look right here, huh? Like especially in the reflected areas down below like that. I don't know. This might look better on like this type of technique here. It might look better on the photo than just like white cardstock. Or the vellum that I've been doing it on. I don't know. I like the look here. When you go in on white cardstock, it's there's more options. I can make the sky any color that I want to, of course. But there is something to be said for having all that already established on there. That is something, Kay. If something's always out of stock, I think it might be out of stock for good then. What colors were out of stock? Don't say black. Or I should say, please don't say black. Isn't that fun though, Karen? I think it looks pretty good. I'm not, saying my stamping. I'm talking about the combination here. Okay, so let's add a little bit of white in here. I don't add too much white here, but you know, it gives it a little bit of extra shimmer, and having that white in there is kind of related to the clouds, of course. With these pens here, you can go for a really tiny dot just by touching it, you know, down a little bit, or you can go for the larger one like that. Okay. I think, where'd my UFO scene go? This pen was perfect for. This pen is really great for kind of aspen um, glitter or shimmering reflective light on your aspen trees, and for UFO windows. They should write that on their in their product descriptions, huh? Okay, so there's that. See, I don't know. Can you see that white in there? That white in there looks really good. I can't tell. Okay, now see, here's what I can't tell here. Because I wasn't paying attention here. I can't remember. I used some white over on this side. Okay, now maybe this is. Okay, so I can see that white there. So we'll see if we can still see that white over here after it dries a little, but I think it blended in more. So maybe it's the fact that, you know, I'm going pen over or acrylic over acrylic. Maybe that's when it kind of, I don't know, dissipates a little bit and becomes a lot more kind of see-through. Um, yeah. Okay, I think that's what's happening here. But I don't know. Yeah, I think that white is disappearing in there a little bit. It that can be kind of good in a way, because when you blend in colors, if they kind of integrate with each other a little bit more, they blend in. But if you want colors, you know, certain um, contrast to stand out more, that's when you can't see it with these as much. So that being said, I think it's physically mixing with the colors underneath here. So you could throw on an acrylic sealant on it so that when you do another layer over the top of it, it's not physically mixing with the colors underneath. I've never really tried that because usually when I'm doing this, I'm not taking a time to go out and spray seal, you know, and wait for it to dry, you know. I have done certain things like that before in these live streams, but you know, that was like with vellum where I absolutely had to spray mount the back of it. So I just told people, all right, go get your drink right now. Not that, you know, not that people are mesmerized and can't get up, you know, and, you know, they're going to miss something. You get up and do that, you know, during, you know, any of this anyways. But, yeah. So I don't know, a little bit. I can still see a little bit of that white in there. It looks like, I don't know, that white looks, I like that white on this side, right in there. I can use a lot more of it right over here, but I'm going to throw in some that white pigment ink in there. Okay, so see these trunks down there? You know, we don't have like some kind of dye-based ink white. Well, there used to be one. I don't know if that's still out there anymore, and I don't know how dye-based it is because just the nature of dye-based inks being transparent, there really can't be an official white dye-based ink. It might be water-based ink, but it's not dye because dyes are transparent. So I never knew what that pad was that called itself a white dye-based ink. So that being said, I just did it in green like that, or whatever it was, and I'm going to bring out some of the like trunk structure or branch structure with, I'll do it with the 0.7 millimeter here. Let's see. Okay, now Laura's in 4 a.m. here, West. So I don't know, Laura, are you up in the morning? Are you up late at night then for you? Some people are getting up at, you know, they go to work like at, you know, whatever, 5 a.m. So they're getting up. So this is like early morning for you, or some, you know, whoever does that. But some people haven't been to sleep yet, so it's, it's like late. Yeah, Kay asked that. Laura, it's a curse. I wake up for a few hours and go back to sleep. Someone was telling me, I knew this friend of mine, and he was saying that, I don't know, he was saying that um, sometimes it's better for his efficient. He was trying to change it to where he did nap for a little bit and then got up at night. So there were smaller. Um, I don't know. He wanted to change his sleeping cycle. He says it was because it's more efficient that way or something like that. Okay, so you're just kind of coming through here like this. It doesn't, now this isn't the end all thing with these trunks right here. You kind of come up through there like that. Can you see that line right there? I mean, if you make too harsh of a line, then you just go back over it with some additional, you break up those lines with some additional paints going back over it, okay? But see how it gives it that structure? So we'll do it right here too. I do get some of the paint up into my tip like that, so you just scribble it out a little bit until it's flowing again, and you just go back over it like this. I'm trying to keep kind of a relatively light touch so I'm not scraping into the paint that's already been applied and thus, getting it into the tip of my pen. But I don't know, it happens. So just be aware of that. It depends on, it happens more with different types of surfaces where the paint isn't quite as adhered to the surface. Like on vellums, they're probably not sticking as much as they are on this emulsion here. I don't know if there's anyone else watching where it's like um, later morning for you. But now I think about it, as I'm kind of explaining certain things and kind of breaking it down and analyzing it, maybe I shouldn't get so analytical about it since it's all really late for us, or most of us, where you haven't been to bed yet, or you've been to bed, but you've woken up and you might be still in that kind of sleep kind of mode. So I should talk more in terms of like, oh, I don't know. Um, was it, what was that guy that did those landscape paintings? I don't know, people always mention it to me. It's like you're the so and so of stamping. This guy with the curly hair, I forgot. So we'll say, oh, let's have let's instead of analyzing it, we'll say we're gonna lay down like some nice shiny happy leaves right here. Okay, so here's again. See, I'm just going across some of those trunks there and just breaking it up a little bit. Okay. Oh, Karen, yeah. The trees have really dumped leaves the last couple of days since we had a freeze. That's too bad. Although, the day after a big dumping of leaves, I always like walking out across the leaves, like if there was like a trail or something like that. It really makes for a colorful path there. Let's see, black, and Marvy seems to have a core. Oh boy. If Marvy's out of black, that's really bad. I still have quite a few, I think, pads, but I am starting to use a lot of Clairs and StazOn over the Marvy black. Because when I use Marvy black, and I just, I mean, some of us here might have it, but a lot of us don't, and a lot of us never will because, it's a discontinued product, and, we're just, I don't know, it's just not going to be around. Okay, so there's the scene right there. I need something here on the foreground here. I'm considering going with a dark version of this right here, where it's like a silhouette of it, and we're looking into the window like that. If I did this in a lighter color, it would really interfere with that reflection down there. So I think a darker version like that on the sides. So we need to get rid of, when you do these mirror cards, we have this thing where you have this card coming down here and it's reflecting down here. So we have this shard of mirror right here on both sides at that, ideal kind of 45-degree angle. So it's a good thing to have. You don't have to cover up this completely, but just a little bit of something to obscure the left and right corners like that. I mean, you don't have to, but I just think it looks a little bit better, just from a compositional standpoint. Blick has Marvy markers, and they're doing a cyber deals today. Oh, that's good. I didn't know Blick had the. So Blick has the. You're talking about the 1500 series of markers or the smaller ones? The 1500 series are a little bit more obscure. Maybe it's the creative. Maybe all creative folks. We wake up in the middle of the night. Maybe you guys are creating in your subconscious or something like that. So you wake up in the middle of the night where your body's telling you to, your body's telling you that you need to stamp. Oh, Bob Ross. Thank you, Karen. Yvonne. Hello, Yvonne. Yvonne said hello, Kevin, earlier. Makes you see, reminds Bob reminds her of her freshman civics teacher. If someone makes me fall asleep, it might remind me of, like, I don't know, half of my general ed teachers in college. Not political science was the worst of it. Oh my God, everyone was falling asleep in that class. But I remember philosophy 100. Oh my gosh. Snooze City. But it was because it was that always that 1 p.m. kind of time frame after lunch. I always had a really difficult time. And that's what my political science class in college was too. I just had a really difficult time staying awake in that moment. That being said, when I was teaching workshops too, I was the one, putting people to sleep, in my workshops that started off at, I think my first class was always from 9 to 12. And then we would take an hour break, and then the next class would start at and go from 1 to 4. So I would always have to start. I'd really have people start stamping very quickly in that 1 p.m. class. Otherwise, people are, if I talk too long, which I'm very prone to doing, everyone is just snoozing out. Okay, so I smeared that one a little bit. Easy to do on silver foil, okay? I am stamping on StazOn, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'll go over here like that. Okay, like that. I've done scenes where all it is just stamping out the imagery basically in black ink, and it's like 4 impressions or something like that. But I formatted it into, maybe the top portion was holographic foil or something like that. You step the lakeside cabin down there, and you have a holographic foil up there. Lakeside cabin black ink right there. 1 impression just on this top portion, but then it's reflected down here. And, a couple pine trees down here. And then you take a picture of it, and people are saying, I wish I could do a card like that. I would, oh, no, no, no. On Facebook, it's like, I would never be able to do a card like that. It was like 5 impressions all in black ink, and that was it. And I just cannot convince people, no, you can do it, But I don't know, what do you do? And that okay, but see this right here? The you have these right here, which is nice because it's the same kind of shape. In theory, these ones would be a little bit larger, but it doesn't really matter. But see, that gets rid of that larger kind of shard of area that's not, covered in the reflected area, because this is just going straight down like that. So anyways, it's kind of a nice little, I don't know, it's like a reflection pool in there. It reminds me of this little lake that I hiked to in Estes Park, Colorado, called Gem Lake. And it was like, I don't know, Gem Lake. The lake ended up being like, it was like 20 yards across if it was that. It was like a tiny tiny pond, more like it. But that's what that reminds me of a little bit. Okay, so let's go with a little bit of a focal point here in the form of this deer. Okay, let's see. All right. Let's, okay, I was thinking about, I can do it in the StazOn, but let's just keep with the Marvy, with the dye-based ink for this top portion. We'll keep those ones of the same medium. Okay. I mean, it could be the StazOn. I don't know if it'd matter. I was just wondering, maybe the okay, I'm wiping this off down here, the feet a little bit. Maybe I don't need to. I'm gonna wipe this off a little bit, because I was thinking I was gonna stamp that right across that. I mean, you can snap anything in here. This one would be really perfect for a, I always say that for like a quote stamp too. Wouldn't this be great for like a word stamp up there? And you can even leave out the little figure like that, but I don't know. It makes like a pretty decent focal point in there. I mean, you can still put a quote up here too. Maybe I will. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe, I think I'm going to leave the word stamp. I'm just trying to think, if I stamp a word stamp up here, I just don't want it reflecting down here, which I don't think it would, because see, here's the thing about these, if you're looking at this too, see if you stamp a quote up here, or a word stamp, see, it's not reflecting down there, because it's like, it's way down there, because this distance from here to here is really far too. So it would be kind of obscured, like you see it even if you look at it at this angle. So even if you had like lettering and typography going across there, I don't think it would be legible down here as a unreadable text source, okay? But see this here, this is really fun too. The closer you are to this connection point, or the, I don't know, yeah, connecting point, I guess, the sharper the reflection is, because the farther you go from this point to this point, the more blurred out it gets. But that is perfect for this type of visual, because it gives it that more kind of realistic look. So see that that little deer down there, as a matter of fact, if you kind of move it around, it looks like, like water movement or something like that. But that image just gets broken up there a little bit, so it looks, like it would in nature, you know, in terms of reflected area. So it's a little bit more sharp. Then you go like that. Okay, so let's see here. Let's put a little bit of refinement on this. I mean, this card's, you know, it's pretty much done. I mean, this wasn't hard to do right here. It's just, you know, a pretty decent amount of the little pen work on there, which I think gives it a little bit more shimmer. It doesn't look that great to me, you know, whenever I do just the pen work like this, because it looks kind of busy, you know, that texturing in there. So all I do is I just go back in over it and add a little bit of pigment ink here and there, and it just kind of, I don't know, it solves that kind of textural problem for me, as white pigment ink often does there. Let's see. So Dick Blick has a whole page of Marvy markers, and it doesn't surprise me. Dick Blick seems to carry just about everything. Always that one monotone teacher that was a snooze fest. I would count that me too, when I listen to myself. But yeah, you know, one thing that I have, thankfully, is that if anyone's watching this channel, chances are you're into stamping. I don't have to teach something like, you know, civics or whatever, you know, or calculus. I'm not teaching, you know, something that we have to be there, and it would, you know, it's like a requirement, but we're not necessarily interested in it. Okay, so white pigment ink. Okay, just the regular pigment inks will work on here too. I'm using the Brilliance ink. It's going to dry a little bit faster for me, but Hero Arts, whatever, Stampin' Up, whatever color box, you know, white, it'll dry on here just fine with no problem, okay? Okay, so this area right down here where we have all that really definitive, crisp imagery. I don't know, that looks pretty good. I'm not gonna, I want to make sure that I don't mess with some of this too much, because I kind of like where we're at with this piece. So see that, you know, just it's a little bit of diffusion like that. Okay. And I'll bring in some of this white, maybe not against that blue, but what I am always mentioning in my process is where I add in this white, it's where white meets darker. Okay, so this is all white right in here. Okay, so let's look at this little spot right here. Okay, so I'll put a little bit of this white over that area. And then we got a little bit of the diffusion like that. I don't know if you can tell. See, that was as dark as that, but now I have a little bit of white right there. And see this area down here where I use so much of that alcohol marker? This area is really tacky to me now. It's got that sticky alcohol marker kind of, you know, stickiness to it. I mean, it's no big deal, that'll dry, but it just, you know, kind of, you know, explaining what this feels like kind of from a tactile standpoint. Okay, so this is white in the background like here. So I'm going to just do something that I really like doing, is at the base of objects like feet or like the trunk of a tree, okay? I always kind of like adding in that little low-line fog. I always think that kind of adds a little bit of a certain mood to a piece, okay? And plus it varies the values and texture. Now you have soft on sharp, you have light on dark, you know, but just from that textural standpoint, it really expands that textural range. And I really love visual texture and things. I'm kinesthetic. That's my dominant sense. So I like to have those types of elements of touch within a piece. You can say that, you know, someone was kind of auditory based or whatever. I mean, certainly from a visual standpoint, it looks like that. But when you add this little fog in there, there's a certain type of um, I don't know, sound, type of feeling that comes with it, because the more thicker the fog or something like that, the more muted the sounds become. So when someone looks at a piece like this too, if you do these little types of touches like this, and it doesn't take a lot to do, um, you might tap into other people's kind of, they're stronger, or their dominant sense. If you're doing a foggy morning or something like that, the sounds are muted. Sounds often sound different at, nighttime, I don't know, or something like that. So from a visual sense, if a writer was writing, he would explain things, the taste of something, or the sound of something, the sights. You try to incorporate all of those different senses so that, you might kind of reach, I don't know, people on a little bit of a deeper level, depending on whatever those senses are. So that is that. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So see this from a little bit of a textural standpoint. See how it's a little bit different right here, where that white came in there and there. Definitely from down there. So it doesn't look so kind of mono texture anymore. It's a little bit softer in those areas. So, I mean, it's not real obvious with that deer. It's just kind of over the bottom portion, like the bottom half of those legs right there. They're a little bit lighter. Okay, so if you do that type of thing like that, again, if you're doing it in a mirror card type of format here, you get you get twice as much for the money, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because the time and effort that you took, to do that right there, it's reflected down here. So that's one of the things that's really nice about mirror cards is whatever you do, times it by 2, unless you're doing it way up here and it doesn't reflect down there. But basically everything else out in here, it's reflecting down in that water. See, it's a little bit lighter in that reflection right around those feet down there. So if you give this card to someone, I don't know if they're really thinking about that type of thing. They're not analyzing the card and saying, oh, that's a little bit lighter right there and softer in texture. I think just things that look a little bit softer are, if you add those types of things, I always make this analogy. If you're walking through Costco and there's that, like so soft looking like little throw or blanket, you know what I mean? I don't know if you go over there and touch it, these days you might be thinking, I don't want to touch everything, because you don't want to catch anything and if everyone else is touching it. But if all things were, safe and equal or whatever, when you walk past something that's like looks like it's super soft, you really want to go over there and touch it. And from a visual standpoint within a scene like that, I think that these kind of softer little elements in there, come into play, and people have that same type of thing. It looks just a little bit more inviting than having everything like super crisp. And it just doesn't take too much. You're tapping down a little bit with a, cotton ball, I don't know, whatever, 60 seconds, to add in that little extra kind of touch and really extend out the visual range of your pieces. Okay, I'm gonna format this right here. All right, and oh, I totally forgot. I was talking about this piece. I made my card a little bit larger, so I might be pre-trimming or trimming this up a little bit. Oh, but looking at this, I was thinking, yeah, I could also put the quote stamp down here too. I really like that. I don't know if I'd do it on this one. It's really light. It's like high noon. This scene right here. But if it was a little bit darker up here, having that quote stamp down here, kind of floating in the water, is really kind of fun to do. But what I was mentioning here is I made this card a little bit. I don't know if you can see that like that. I don't know. It's not really even a big deal. There's gosh, It's like a 32nd of an inch. But what you can do is you can take your, oh, you see that little white right there where that's sticking out like that. I need to oh, that's from the silver one right here. So what you do is you just take this and put this through your trimmer and just trim off these edges like that and make it nice and flush, you know, before you send it out or whatever. Unless you like the card so much that there's no way anyone, you know, that you can think of would be worthy of getting this card from you. Oh, Linda, do we lose Linda here? Yeah, Linda. I took a sleeping aid and am dropping fast. Good night, Linda. She's already probably gone, unless, you know, she fell asleep. She's like, she might be sleeping like at her, you know, at her desk there. uh, all right, let's see. Yeah, Sandy, you got to try one of these cards. All it is, you know, instead of putting the card like on the outside of a card like that or whatever, this is just like one piece of silver foil with that, you know, the Aspen, same image used down here. I mean, I think that makes a nice card, okay? Just as is, right? You know, I mean, you know, it needs something else up here, you know, like a word stamp. I think that would be really great, right? But if you had this little piece down here and do this, I mean, that, you know, that really adds. I think it you know, I talk about this like doubling the imagery, but I think that, you know, this card like that, it's bigger than the sum of its parts. It's more like, you know, to me, it's more like 3 or 4 cards or something like that, just because of the depth that you get from it. And of course, there's that aspect of what do you call it? Parallax. Okay, so if you move this around like this, okay, it's like, you know, you have your hand right next to your face or something like that, and if you move like this, your hand is moving like a lot more in relation to like some mountain, you know, in the background that doesn't look like it's moving around at all. So these images right here, when you go like this, they're moving a lot, but the images in here are moving less. So see, this tree is moving across those things. So it really, you know, it kind of plays around with illusion like that. You know, this is water right here. Even when people are kind of moving it up like that, it kind of looks like, you know, kind of water, because it distorts the imagery up here like that. Doesn't it look like, I mean, it's a real Ripley looking like that, you know? And yes, I geek out, you know, about these cards, you know, when I look at it like that, especially for the effort, you know, it's like that, you know, it's one piece of silver cardstock with a couple images stamped in there. So I don't know, it can achieve, you know, some nice little different effects like that. And of course, you know, something like this, then you put your whatever to and from on the outside like that, or this is black, you know, you can tape something else down here. White card or whatever, and you know, you can have something else on the outside like that. For something like this, oh yeah, I forgot about this. On something like this too, I like to keep things kind of simple out here, you know, to kind of, I don't know, it doesn't subdue, not subdue, but you know, the expectations are like, you know, people are used to getting a card from you and thinking, you know, if they get something like this, I mean, you want something out here on the outside, you know what I mean? Stamp something in, and this is on black, but if I was doing, you know, I'd do like a reverse impression of like a, you know, like a leaf or something like that, or something simple. And then when they open it up, you know, it's that right there. You know, it almost looks like a pop-up card in a way. In a way, I guess it is kind of a pop-up card because you're viewing it at a 45-degree angle. But here's what I forgot to do on here. So I'm going to add in, yeah, just a few little extra touches of, you know, some of these leaves that have fallen on the rocks like that. Okay, so it's kind of subtle. You see those little yellow leaves right in there. And they do reflect down there, but I'm going to put some of these little yellow leaves, and I'll put them like across. You see, you put them in front of your trees like that if you want to, or I don't know. Well, now that I think about it, I'm not sure if they were supposed to be over the tops of those trees. Because those weren't, it wasn't like shadows in the leaves or something like that. Where's the Marby? Not the Marby, but where's um, the, uh, the Sharpie pen? I always keep a Sharpie pen handy for conceptual blunders. All right, so here, so you see this little leaves are down like that. It kind of looks weird like that, but when you look at it like this, I don't know if you can see that right here. I can see it, but see this down here? So you have those leaves. See, can you see those leaves right there? And yes, I am geeking out because this is a geek out type of type of moment here. See those little leaves like that, kind of floating across that water like that when you spin this around. Here, let me put a couple more. Here, I'll do a different tone of it too. I'll do both yellows like this. Let me see, where's that one going to show up right here? So it's right here. Okay, let's see that right there. See, that's where it is right there. But then, where it's like that, see those leaves kind of floating in the water like that? Maybe you see them all over the place like that. But that kind of adds to that mirrored type of look, because these things right here really look like they're floating on that water like that. Okay, then here, make a couple more like this. All right, so that looks like that. So again, see, I don't try to do that completely perfect pattern. I kind of cluster them a little bit like that. All right. So here's some a little bit closer and a little bit farther off in the distance. There's some of them, these ones like here. I mean, the camera's, focusing in on here, so these ones are a little bit more blurred out. But even when I'm looking at this, right in person, they're a little bit, you still get that same type of effect like that. So I don't know. There might be a little bit too many leaves in there. Floating leaves. I don't know. Is there such thing as too many floating leaves? Aspen leaves in the water in this type of scenario? I don't know. Okay, so anyways, yeah. I think this is it right here. Like I said, in past kind of mirror cards, it's kind of better having things a little bit more kind of sparse and simple up there. So, what is this? This is this whole card right here. I can't think. This is a 3-stamp card, right? Boulders with Lichen. This deer silhouette and one tree, right? Yeah. I don't think I used anything else in here. So it's the same tree on both sides. This tree, right here, and the rocks. And then, the cloud stamp and this piece of silver cardstock are really doing all the rest in terms of the imagery. So, it's a pretty simple composition, but I think it looks rather complex, especially in this format. I think that card, like I said, I think that card looks pretty cool as is, but that looks a lot better. So you can go real simple with these mirror card, the mirror card formatting like that, and it just looks so much more complex, in terms of I don't know, an end result. In my book, I just think it does. It's just it's almost like I almost feel like I'm cheating. It's not cheating. There's no such thing as cheating in stamping or something like that. But just in order to, you usually have to do certain things to get to some certain point in a project to kind of give it a a little bit of a wow factor or something like that. But I find that this gives us that, and this is on this paper right here. I mean, you can do this on, if you want to go, something crazy, you can stamp it on, something like the holographic printable vinyl or something like that. You can do this exact same composition. It would just look, crazier with this up here like this on this foil, but you'd have that, reflecting down there. I mean, it would just change the entire spirit of it, but the process could be exactly the same for a completely different look. So, yeah. Let's see. Uh, oh, Yvonne, yeah, good. You can see that little change right there, right? Even just if you do that to one little small area, the white pigment ink. Remember, what you're doing is you're taking something that's really crisp. There's a textural range of things. There's a value range, light and dark, within a composition. It doesn't have to be a scene, any kind of painting or visual work. You have different ranges of things. And from a textural range, when it comes to stamping, in most of the times in stamping, everything is crisp, okay? Because you don't want like a blurry impression. You don't want to, stamp something out and say, oh my God, I blurred it, even though I blurred this one out. But I didn't want it though, okay? I mean, in the end, it doesn't matter too much. But that being said, if you slip on something like this, Linda, who went to bed, said that she, on her mirrored cardstock down here, not on the photo stamping, but on the mirror cardstock, if you blur one of your StazOn impressions, just take some StazOn cleaner and it wipes right off. So she said no problem with that. But yeah, just extending your textural range, having something soft within that range really changes things. It really stands out too because everything else was really crisp. So even if it's a small little addition of white pigment ink, in one area, or sometimes it's like a little twinkly star up in the sky in a nighttime sky, you put a little pigment ink over it and it's like everyone's eye was going to go straight to that star because it's a different texture than the entire rest of the scene. So, yeah. I have changed Kay's idea, making her rethink touching everything. Double the imagery with half the work, Karen. And it's a good imagery, right? Because it kind of makes sense in a landscape stamping type of format. I still really love this one right here, this mirror scene. Let me see that I did. I haven't formatted this yet, but I did this one in that post Nature Set number 11 Stamp Wars scene. But just lapis lazuli. This is two stamps here too. Just the Palm Island stamped on both sides, and then I did the hot sun right there. But that's a scene right there, but just formatted it into a card like that. And I've shown this, I don't know, I'm geeking out about this one too, but this one right here, all it is the palm fronds down here, in the format, or the foreground, like that, and you get this look right here. But just super, I think it's super dynamic like that. And again, it's just exponentially more interesting, I think, than that. Okay, I think that makes it, a decent looking scene or whatnot. Not that everything has to be in a mirror, you know what I mean? We don't have all of our, cards aren't, a body of water like that, but I don't know, it just makes it, you can really make it fun for those types of kind of water elements and whatnot. And okay, so this is a new option for you guys too. You start off with, your photographic thing. And like I said, for those of you that might not know, these are all on my Flickr gallery under the Clouds album. They're available for downloading and printing completely free of charge. You can get, there's a gazillion more better photographs than I've done though too. I've kind of done things a little bit specifically for stamping on top of, like I said, I muted, a lot of the things where it's not so, kind of an exciting of a background, but, on a lot of cards that we're stamping on top of, I don't want the background to be so exciting. I want it to be more versatile for us to stamp onto the top of. But it looks like, the dye-based ink impressions on top of the photographs works really good. And then, if you have some of these acrylic paint pens, I mean, I think they look really good on there. I don't know, Like I said, sometimes I overwork them a little bit, but I don't know. I think this one for the first test on there, if it is my first test, I can't remember. I think it came out reasonably well, and I gauge it. I gauge it how it looks up here, but I gauge it how it looks really down there too. And I think that area down there looks really pretty realistic. I like the reflection area down there more than the top portion. I like it where it's kind of blurred out more, you know what I mean, and kind of a little bit more obscured than on this part. I get a little busy up here. Maybe I should, throw a little bit more pigment ink up there or something of that sort. So, yeah. Okay, on these ones, if you have your saying or verse out, put it on the outside. I think that's it's kind of that's kind of the way they call it sequential aesthetics, okay? Like if you're reading a book or something like that, it starts off a little bit slower or something like that. Now, I mean, we do have the cover that has to get everyone's attention and everything like that. But usually the pacing of like movies and things like that, books, there's a climax area if you're looking at a picture book. So it starts off like quieter and smaller. And then, somewhere along the line, you get into, a climax or whatever. And that could be something like that. So you have something kind of smaller like that. And then people get this. Like, I mean, you can say, though, that when people take a card out of an envelope that you send to them, that's the reveal there, too. But it's kind of like a delayed reveal. You have your thing there, or a little leaf here, or something like that, or leaves, or something with a quote and saying, or you can write across this too, thinking of you, whatever. And then they open it up like that, and it's like, I don't know, and light is reflecting off of this too, back at them too. That's another thing about these mirrored pieces, This is like a mirror, so it's almost like this lighting kind of coming from within the card out without having like some kind of little LED tricks or something like that kind of working in here. These types of mirror cards are going to be the most reflective type of lighting reveal, and then if you incorporate, something like this into it, maybe even more so. But I don't know. There's enough light coming up like that. It's like the movie Pulp Fiction where they have this briefcase and they open it up and there's this light coming from within the briefcase that no one knows what that, is supposed to represent. But that's what I think about when I think about these mirror cards. It's having something super reflective in there. And that's always been one of those things that I've always wanted to try to depict in my cards. I always want to kind of give the illusion of light coming from, within the scene. Usually it was, the addition of white or the retention of white on a piece of white cardstock, and then we darken the rest of it. On this one, I'm working on lapis lazuli, a dark paper with white ink, but I've always wanted to give this kind of illusion like that of light. But it really isn't light because if this is in the dark, I can't get this dark right here because I have these studio lamps in here, but, it gives more light, actual light coming off the page because this is like a mirrored surface like that, so I don't know. It's something. If you send that out to someone, I think if they haven't seen this type of format before too, and I don't think anyone would because I don't know if too many people doing mirror cards. I think you'll really surprise them with that type of format, and then it's like half the work for you guys. It's like half the work for us, right? Doing these ones. In many ways, and then especially if you do something on, photo paper like this or, the holographic cardstocks or something like that, there's a lot of excitement inherently in the surface itself that we just have to stamp over the top of and, whatnot. So anyway, okay, so super late here. Puts the wow factor inside, yeah. Or you can even do something, they call it like I said, sequential aesthetics. You can put a little saying right here and whatnot. And then they open it up, and on this other side like that, you can put a little, little leaf or something like that, or whatever, let's say you're sending, some sort of snow winter type of scene. I would do these little, little bit of a, like snowfall or something like that, little white dots or something like that. So you'd, have it Merry Christmas here. You need to put it in. Wouldn't it be cool to do a mirror card and then you stamp out your Merry Christmas here, or whatever, Happy Holidays, whatever, in silver embossing like that, because that would really relate to the silver surface like that, And you can do snowfall in a snow scene or whatever, snow. This would probably be like represent like a frozen lake or something like that. And then you can have something on the back, a little bit of like, a couple little dots of snow. So you'd have a beginning or intro, kind of climax, and your finale right there, And you'd have this really great little thematic. It's almost like a little book or something like that, or a storyline or something like that, That would be kind of interesting. Or you can stamp out this little guy. It's in here, and you can stamp it in white on the back or something like that, and put your initials or your from whoever on the back as a conclusion. So it's like a little book project, because this is like a little book, right? That's cards are kind of like little 3-panel books if you utilize them that way. So yeah, all right. So anyways, thanks everyone for joining in on this Monday night live, Monday morning, whatever time it is for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the card. Hope you enjoyed the entire process. I hope some of you, give these types of mirror card formats a try, and or the photo stamping types of processes. They can be really fun to kind of play around with and experiment with. All right, so anyways, have a great rest of day, night. If you woke up during the middle of the night or something like that, hope you're able to get back to sleep and have, you can go here in your subconscious into this location here. All right. Thanks, everyone. Tuesday morning. Have a great Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, whatever time it is for you guys. Have a great rest of day. Thanks again. Great seeing you.